Hello, viewers. Welcome to another episode. Welcome to my channel. This is episode 16, and I thought today I would talk about the times that I almost died at Dapchari. So, I have at least 8 times that I almost certainly would have died, but there were three clear ones that I remember at Dapchari when I was a little kid. So, I thought I'll talk about those today. So, one of the first ones I'll tell you about has to do with our cow. So we had two really aggressive cows, really hostile cows. The other cows were very sweet and very nice. I remember in the afternoons I used to go and sit in their trough. I used to pet them, like I said before. I used to treat them like pets. So that's what I would do. I would play with them, I would pet them. And I remember sometimes, like, I would see a tear on a cow and I would feel very sad and I would be like, no, don't cry. Why are you crying? And I would wipe the tear. In hindsight, I've learned later, much later, that cows actually do cry, they do feel sad. It probably had something to do with, us separating them from their babies because we kept them for dairy, and at some point the babies were not placed with the mothers, so probably something to do with that. So I do remember that once we had this. Some cows were imported. Like I said, I think they were called Hostern, Houston. I'm not sure what. My parents used to call them Hostern. So I'm not sure what that breed was called. And they were tall and majestic. And relatively compared to that, our local cows were kind of teeny tiny and puny. So I mean, all our animals were very healthy, well fed, and they had enough flesh and all of that. But you could clearly differentiate between the imported ones and the local ones. So there was one imported one, huge, very beautiful one. Her name was Rathi, and I was terrified of her. Now, I don't know if her breed was Rathi or her name was Rathi, but we used to call her Rathi. So I was terrified of her. And I remember one day in the afternoon, like when probably mom was taking a break from work, I was running around feeding a little grass to all of the cows. And then Rathi also tried to ask for some grass, and I got really scared, but I kind of approached her kind of really warily and I gave her the grass and she took it. So I was like, okay, she's not attacking me. But there was a different time when I was attacked by a cow. So we had this local cow called Sudha. She was a little firecracker, and I was wary of her. I knew she was aggressive. So one day, I don't know why, she was tied out in our yard, the yard which was between our house and the cowshed. She was, I mean, obviously the rope was very long and tied like very loosely, one would say. So I wasn't going anywhere near her, and my mom decided that she would teach me to not fear Sudha. So she told me, come, come, just take some strands of grass and feed them to her. And I was like, no, she'll attack me. And my mom was like, no, she will not attack you. Come, feed her. And so, in spite of what I was feeling, I think as a kid, my intuition was very strong and spot on. Anyway, but then you do obey, no matter what you obey. I mean, that's the kind of kid I was. So I very warily picked up a few strands of grass and I went towards Sudha. And the next thing I knew, she had lifted me on her horns. I don't even know how. She had lifted me on her horns and flung me into the field, which was several feet away, like the distance between the yard and the field. It was several feet, and then there was a little canal. I wouldn't call it a canal, but a little waterway to let the irrigation into your field. There was that, and uh, and somehow she managed to just fling me several feet away, and I was so stunned. A little 5 year old. I mean, in my mind, all of this happened when I was 5, but I could be a little younger or a little older. I don't remember. So I was so stunned. I was lying in the field, And then from the corner of my eye, at the sidelines of my vision, I saw her approaching me. So she was not really tied, she was just there. It was like tied for namesake. So the next thing I knew, she was running towards me to attack me again, to gore me probably. I don't know. And that's when I realized that, oh my god, she's not leaving me alone. And then I was going to lie there in shock, but seeing that, I got up and fled to my mom. And then I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I had told you that she would attack me. And then I don't remember what happened afterwards, but I remember this much very, very clearly. So I would count that as the first time I almost died, or would have been very badly injured, at least at Dapchari. Um, then a second incident had to do with cow dung, again with cows. So if you remember, I had told you about uh, the gobar gas, the biogas thing that we had, and there was a huge pit, and then there was they used to process the cow dung. They used to kind of mix it with a little water and then let it into that pit, and then the gas was captured in some kind of system, and then the gas was used for cooking in our house. So I remember once there was a bunch of these Adivasi laborers. Like I had told you, these people would walk around the units looking for work because there were all these fields my dad had set up. Remember, I told you my dad had set up these units. And then afterwards, we also bought one of those units to try and run our business, a dairy and poultry and farming business, whatever that would be. So one day a bunch of laborers had come, and mom and dad hired them and told them a bunch of work to do, and they were to go to the side of the field which was near the stream. Remember, I told you there's a stream, and sometimes we used to play near the stream, and I loved going near the stream, and I was such a good little girl. I would always take permission and that kind of stuff. So when I realized that they were going towards the stream, I took permission. I asked my mom, can I also go with them when they are near the stream, and I'll play over there? And mom said, go ahead. So I started following them. Meanwhile, they had started walking ahead. So I started following them, and as I was following them, at one point, there was a gap. So there was a gap while I was crossing. There was a path, and on one side, on the left side of the path, was that irrigation way, and on the right side was our house and everything. So on the left of that little path which went towards the stream, you had the irrigation way, and then you had our fields on the left, and then ahead of that was Sasane's fields, and ahead of that was Sasane's house, and on the right was our house, and then the cow shed, and then the biogas thingy, and then some more fields of ours on the right. So I started following these laborer women, and as I was following them, there was a gap in that path. It had been dug up to give some way to that irrigation, and me being really tiny, I could not jump across it. I could not cross. So as those women, like, they didn't care. They are just laborer women, so they didn't care. They were just walking up to that part of the field. So me, soft, timid little girl, I was following the last laborer girl or woman, and then I called out to her and I said, Didi, can you help me to cross this? I can't cross this. So she just ignored me, or she didn't hear me, or whatever. She didn't care. She just walked ahead. They didn't even care that there was some little girl trying to walk with them or whatever. They were just in their own thing. So then I looked and I was like, now what do I do? On the left was the irrigation thing. It was deep, the water that flowed, and ahead of that was the field. So I could not go around that. Obviously, that itself was the reason that there was a gap over there. So then I looked to my right and I saw solid dry ground, and I was like, oh, I'll just walk around this and I will go ahead, follow the laborer ladies. So in the meantime, when I paused, I called out, I thought they went a bit ahead. So then I stepped to my right onto what I thought was dry ground, but surprise, surprise, that was not dry ground. That was a dry layer on the cow dung pit. So I had stepped on kind of gel consistency, semi-liquid cow dung, and I kind of started going down into it. And that's when I had the horrified realization, even as a very small little kid. I knew, like, I had seen the construction of that pit earlier. I knew that was a very, very deep pit, and I had like visions flashing in front of my eyes of me just going down and drowning in cow dung. So, one of the times that I almost died, I would have died in cow dung, drowning, breathing in cow dung, getting it into my belly, into my nostrils, into my lungs. That's how I would have died. But I obviously did not die. So now what I realized was that that dry layer, when I had taken 3 or 4 steps, it gave way and I started sinking into it. And then there was nothing I could do. I continued sinking. So then I just kind of spread out my arms, and that's what stopped me. And then that was not a very thick layer, it was probably a 1 inch thick layer of cow dung, a dry layer of cow dung, and the rest of it was all very custard, like runny custard consistency, quite jelly, not even a thick jelly, it was quite runny, I could feel that. So now what I did was I started calling out loudly, because I was not that far from the house. I was like ahead of the cowshed, ahead of the banana trees. But still, if I had called out, someone at the house could hear me. So mom, dad, and my sisters were sitting at the veranda. I think they were oiling hair. It was a weekend, something like that. And I started calling out. But nobody could hear me because Sasane was running his tractor that day in his field, and his tractor was so loud it drowned out my voice completely. And I kept calling and shouting and screaming, and nobody could hear me. Then I don't know how many minutes passed, but then I realized that nobody was coming to help me and nobody could hear me. Sasani wasn't looking, he didn't care, he was just running his tractor in his field a few feet away. And because of that sound, nobody who was in our veranda, on our veranda, could hear us in our yard. And those laborer girls didn't care, they had just walked away. So then I knew I was on my own. So then I started looking around, wondering what to do. And as I turned around, I didn't turn around. I was very like still facing the same way. And later my mom was like, why didn't you kind of grasp at some, of the grass and turn around with that? But I didn't want to do any jerky motion. I knew I had to be very slow and very careful. And I don't even know as a little child how I did it, but I made an effort to not push down too hard with my arms, but to start extricating myself. And that is so dangerous. And I did not even have the guts to turn around, because I don't know, I felt even that would be too much pressure. But that was just not where my mind went. I was there in that situation, like almost 100% dead. But then I just stayed calm and I started slowly pulling myself up. I don't even know how that didn't cause the rest of the cow dung layer to crack. And little by little, I got myself up very slowly. I don't even know how. Then I stepped on that dry cow dung, and I did not want to turn on my heel as later my mom suggested, because I felt even that would again crack it and cause the pressure. And with the lightest of steps, I walked across that cow dung very, very slowly and very carefully onto safe land. And then I went running to my mom and I cried and I was like, I called and you didn't hear. And then my mom was so horrified. And then they washed me with the pipe, where there was that thing, the big trough for the cows to drink water in, and there were pipes and all over there at the yard. They washed me and they hugged me, and my mom was like, oh no, we didn't hear you because of the tractor. So that was the second time I almost died. The third time I almost died was at the cow's drinking trough. Now, in my memory, the cow's drinking trough was about 5 feet tall, but realistically, I don't think it was 5 feet tall. It was tall enough that the cow's neck could fit, go comfortably over it, and the cows could drink water. So what we would do once a week, we would scrub that trough with brushes, we would wash it off nicely, remove all the slimy stuff, whatever builds up if there's water over time. We used to scrub it, clean it, and then we used to close the butch thing again and fill it up with water. So that was the day we would kind of play in that water. And one day, like, it was me, dad, and my sisters, we were playing in the water. And then At some point, my sisters got out of the pool, but I did not. I mean, I called it the pool. That was my pool growing up. I did not want to get out. So my dad just sat at the edge, his back towards me. He was facing the house, his back was towards me, and I'm still splashing around in the pool. Next thing I know, my foot has slipped and I am horizontal. I'm horizontal and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So then in my memory, like it's clear as if it just happened, but I know I was breathing in mouthfuls of water and then with all of my might screaming, Daddy. At that time I used to call him Daddy. And I kept on calling out, Daddy, Daddy. And then he was just sitting over there on the edge of that trough. And I feel like I did not get any of those sensations, those panicky sensations or whatever, or, a feeling of you're drowning or you're splashing around. I was just horizontal, face up. I could see my dad's back. And I'm just, with all my might, calling out, Daddy, Daddy. I did not even feel that some horrible sensation of dying, that your lungs are filling up, nothing. I was breathing in mouthfuls of water and just calling out as loud as I could, Daddy, Daddy. Now, I don't know how many seconds, how many minutes passed, but at one point my dad said, from far away I can hear Minu baby calling, and then suddenly it kind of clicked to him that I was in that trough, and he turned around and he just extricated me in 1 second. He turned around, grabbed my arm and pulled me up and saved me. So that was the third time I almost died over there. And I can't remember any kind of after effects of having swallowed all that water. It was just like after he pulled me out, I was just normal. That's in my memory. I don't know. I don't think I spat out water, coughed out water, nothing. I don't even know if it was minutes or seconds, but that was funny in hindsight, but it was not funny then. Then my mom said, hey, why didn't you just plant your foot down and push yourself up? I don't know. Those things didn't occur to me at that time. But yeah, these are the 3 stories of how I almost died at Dapchari. I'll come back with more stories, guys. Please do subscribe to my channel and somebody watch my channel, please. Anyway, I treat it like a diary, but please do like my story. If you like it, please do leave a like, leave a comment, and please do watch. Okay, guys, enough for today. Bye-bye.